Hi guys, just a bit extra. So I want to try and put in a little bit of context about what's going on and Britain and possibly other countries breaking away from Europe if they feel that's the right thing to do. Now I've been researching this for a long time and I want to show you some of the information that's out there, but I want you to make your own conclusions on what's going about, looking at what's real, what isn't, and digging down into the facts. Don't take my word for it. I'm going to put links in there, but follow the links, check up your own theories, your own ideas, get to the heart of the matter to allow you to think of what for your own conscience, what is really going on and what's happening to you, what's happening to your families, and what's potentially going to happen to your children, your grandchildren further down the line. So let's have a look at the video that Sargon's just put out, the hard and soft. I'll put a link to this. So let's have a listen, and then we'll have a look at some additional issues.
Hello, Britain. In 2016, as you know, we held a referendum on whether or not to remain a member of the European Union, to which we, as a nation, voted to leave. Fast forward a year and we're debating whether we leave or remain a member of the single market. The decision before us appears to be between a soft Brexit or a hard and ultra-extreme, likely Russian-backed and probably racist Brexit, with cliffs. The professional liars have planted their flags, but with so many adjectives and metaphors being flung about, it's sometimes hard to know what to make of it. So being myself a rather simple fellow, I've had to break the relevant issues into digestible sections and now beg a moment to present to my fellow Brits what all this bother is about.
So peaceful.
The single market originated in 1957 as the EEC. It grew and it grew both in size and power until it contained almost the entire continent. This ever-growing economic union was originally designed by the principal architects of the EU as a first step towards creating a single giant European superstate. Over the decades, the legal frameworks, treaties, conventions and institutions required to set up this new state were gradually assembled behind the scenes until...
Right. So he's saying that there's some sort of super state in the background. Now, what facts are there for this? So let's have a look at the white paper as proposed by Juncker himself in Europe.
Gentlemen, later this month in Rome, 27 of our member states will stand shoulder to shoulder in peace, solidarity and friendship to mark the 60th anniversary of the Treaties of Rome. And I would like to see the President of the Parliament being associated to these ceremonies. However, this will not simply be a birthday celebration. It should also be the birth moment of the European Union at 27. And as we turn the page and commence a new chapter in our history, it is time we sought new answers to a question as old as our union is young. Quo vadis Europa at 27.
That sounded like a Roman there, and so Quo vadis basically alluding to the new Roman state coming through, or the Fourth Reich, but controlled by the Juncker's family. Oh, German. Ah, yeah. German industrialists who helped sort out Hitler during the war, allowing everybody to do what they wanted. Let's listen more.
Europe's founding fathers were visionaries. Spinelli and Rossi.
So Spinelli and Rossi were the founding fathers who laid down the tenets for the European Union. Now, Altiero Spinelli. This is his picture. He was incarcerated by the fascists, by Mussolini, and he went on. Basically, he was a communist who wanted a federal state. Let's have a look. Old European politician. The Long March. Let me just open this up. Right, because I want real information to be out. I don't want you to like anything I put in. I want you to check. Double check if I've made any mistakes, call me on it, and I can dig even further to find out about it. But basically, he wanted to set up a federation run by a group which was then that worked within themselves to put forward the broader plan of a socialist federalist superstate which would not be responsible to its members. So basically, no one would really have control. The people in each of the countries wouldn't be in control, that the politicians at the top would dictate because they knew best for those countries. Well, this sounds like it's in all names a dictatorship that they've set up to be fantastic for the people and not allowing people to do their own thing. You can go through and you can see the Federalist Advocate, you can read all of these references, go through, and this is sort of what it's based on. Then we have Altiero Spinelli, who was the other founding father quoted. His life's work, Federalization. Let's have a look. His work as a new political behaviour. His Spinelli's attitude differed from that of Federalists before him, who limited themselves to denouncing the historical crisis of nation states and setting the achievement of European federation at some intermediate future time. Those Federalists, such Federalists, unlike Spinelli, had not set themselves the objectives of drawing up a precise plan. So he was, between the two of them, they were drawing up precise plans, timeframes for where they wanted this federal state to go and how they could do it. So laying the foundations for a federal state that would take over all the rest of Europe as a super state controlled by a few at the top for the people. True socialism, controlled by a few for the majority, and that's what the European Union is. Now, let's have a look at the fundamentals, the tenets of the federalisation. Bear with me, I'm just going to pause this while I find the right section. Okay, following through, there's actually the legal aspects of the European Union by Lucia Serena Rossi, that let's have a look, the Treaty of Maastricht laid up the pillars, that the European Union is based on 3 pillars. Let's have a look. Change in the community structure. So the most radical change in the community structure is the pillars, the 3 pillars. The first corresponds to the European Union, no longer economic community, so it changed from an economic community to being something else. Oh, let's have a look. Exactly as he wrote and is in the information in the background. Was absorbed the existing treaties. The second pillar provided for a competence actually more symbolic than real in the field of common foreign and security policies. Basically, there was policing of their borders with an army, so coming up with the control, then the policing of their own state. So that's the second section of things. So the field common and foreign community policy. The third conference upon the Union, the competences to develop the so-called area of freedom, security and justice, inspired by the Schengen Agreement. Thus the community became one, through the most important of the 3 pillars of a union with broader aims. So this is just the start. This is just the start and most important, according to these federalists. The most important, let's have a look. The symbolic significance. Pillars of a union with broader aims. These are very important symbolic significance, though they were only drafted in some cases lacking in effective instruments by the Treaty of Maastricht. The functionalist approach was abandoned, as matters of high political value, such as European citizenship and the protection of fundamental rights, were incorporated into the treaty. Through the common currency provided for the first pillar, and its activity in the fields of foreign policy and police, as provided for respectively in the second and third pillar, the Union was endowed with the classical symbols of national sovereignty. Furthermore, the principle of subsidiarity was also introduced to counterbalance the new powers. This was typical of federal states and already mentioned in the Single European Act, the first reform of the community treaties with reference to the European environmental policy. The European Union was thus conceived as a light superstructure combining its new powers with those of the existing European community. So taking the powers that had already been put in place and making it more solid and creating a superstate, which were more incisive and articulate. The complexity of this design is emphasised by the fact that even though with a single institutional framework in each of the three pillars, institutions are involved in various ways, using different decision-making procedures and issuing different types of acts. The pillar structure, whose functioning is definitely not easy to understand either by citizens or third-party countries, is the result of a compromise on different degrees of supranationalism that member states were then ready to grant to the Union in the different matters of the three pillars. The first pillar was still based on the so-called community method, with a high degree of following through, courts of justice, commissions. The second, working your way through, well, all of these you can check out yourself. Basically, it was pulling everything together to allow them to control the European Union, and all of it is based, according to Mr. Juncker, on what those people had written, those documents, and allowing it to become a super state which would have the power over all of the societies under its dominion. It's basically a new, I don't want to go down the route of thinking the Fourth Reich, but if we just say the new Rome, let's go with the new Rome, and that's what we have. So you can check through, go through the European Commission's things, find out whether you really want to be part of a new Rome, but with no rights really, with them dictating what we can do, with us not being able to say we don't want that, we don't want to be changed, we don't want to, with all of the people who are allowed to come in, they would then have the power on a soft Brexit to allow us, to force us to accept so much migration that it would basically change the internals of our culture, force us into a situation where we're all grey, that we're all fighting all different groups together, but at the moment it's not allowing enough time for the different groups to merge. There's so much and such huge migration caused by the wars fought for oil and for other reasons and other politics in the background to destabilise those areas and force those people to come here as cheap labour, so that the people at the top, the industrialists like the Junkers, can earn vast fortunes and the rest of the people in Europe suffer while being disenfranchised from power, and the Junkers, with all their money, all their power, the politics and the superstate to back them up, can do whatever they want to whoever they want. And that's what they've put in place, that's what they've been creating, and that's where we are. So let's go back to where we started, where things are on this European Union.
Still, in 2009, the pieces were formally combined into a single legal entity. The single market is now at the core of this new quasi-federal country. It consists of 500 million people, 26 million businesses, and comprises 15% of the global economy. We, being a part of this new country, have free access to this huge market, which accounts for 45% of our trade. However, membership of this ambitious club isn't actually free. Let's look at the costs. 1. As a member of the EU, we gave up control of our fishing grounds, which are now governed by the EU's Common Fisheries Policy. This is possibly the worst policy that Brussels has ever come up with. Boats are given strict quotas on what they're allowed to catch, and so when they inevitably catch the wrong fish, they have to throw them back dead. Billions of good fish are tossed back into the sea dead each year due to these quotas, which have made our oceans some of the most overfished in the world. Taking back control of our waters, we can replace quotas with flexible days at sea as required to protect our valuable stocks and crucial marine environment. 2. As a member of the EU, we gave up control of our immigration policy, which is now in part governed by the EU's free movement of people. This is possibly the worst policy that Brussels has ever come up with. Every year, enough people migrate to Britain to create a new city the size of Nottingham, half of which come from the EU, despite it only containing 6% of the world's population. This is very unusual. Nowhere else in the world does trade impart citizenship. Free movement was only implemented here as the single market was designed to become a single country, but regardless of the reasons, this mass migration is simply unsustainable. Taking back control of immigration means we can do something better. We can set up the system to allow many tens of thousands of the world's most talented and law-abiding people to join us on our island each year. For example, if we need 7,000 nurses, we can welcome in 7,000 nurses. We can also lavishly issue temporary visas for any people who just want to study or work here for a while. We'll remain open to tourists, and of course we can provide refuge to asylum seekers, providing they actually are. An equal borders policy is one that works to treat the world's people equally based on their merits, rather than simply discriminate on the basis of where they're from. 3. As a member of the EU, we gave up control of our trade policy, which is now governed by the EU's Common External Tariff. This is possibly the worst policy that Brussels has ever come up with. The external tariff was designed to protect large and inefficient businesses in Europe from competition by raising the costs of goods imported from the rest of the world. As a result, everything is more expensive, our economy stagnates, and our global exports suffer. Taking back control of our trade policy, we can remove these economic barriers and join the global market, which is thriving outside of the EU. 4. As a member of the EU, we gave up ultimate control of our law and are now subservient to the European Union's dictates and the judgments of its court. This is possibly the worst idea that anybody has ever come up with. New Zealand isn't having Australia govern its laws, Japan isn't subservient to China, and even tiny Hong Kong is fighting to keep its independence because sovereignty is synonymous with freedom and freedom is valuable. Although we trade with America, for example, no one is suggesting that Mr. Trump need govern our laws, whereas according to the EU, our buying wine from a chap in France apparently requires we submit to the rule of a fellow in Brussels. Taking back control quite literally means just that. We will be responsible for our own lives and our own laws, not some far-off bureaucrats, foreign courts, or especially that little chap in Brussels. 5. As a member of the EU, on top of our fisheries, immigration policy, trade policy and sovereignty, we also pay a net fee of almost £10 billion each year for the privilege of trading with the single market. Some say this is a rather expensive bill for supposedly free trade, especially with a market that appears to be collapsing. 40 years ago, the single market's current members comprised 30% of the global economy. Today they're down to 15% and falling. Just 10 years ago, the single market accounted for 55% of our trade. Today it's 45% and also falling. If we were to leave the single market with no deal, the worst possible case for Britain is that the EU erect trade tariffs, charging us a fixed percentage on what we sell into their market, up to the maximums allowed by the World Trade Organization. They might also erect the protectionist barriers that isolate members of the single market from the wider world. That said, and despite their bravado, the EU is actually in no position to put up trade barriers with the UK. Our trade earns them a net £60 billion in profit each year, any reduction of which would cost their already crumbling markets millions of jobs. At the same time, by leaving the single market, our global trade is set to increase by tens of billions, which will make the EU's large but shrinking market increasingly less relevant. So back to the options. A so-called soft Brexit would see us remain a member of the single market. Membership would continue to cost us our trade and immigration policies, and we continue paying a significant sum. Also, as a member, we would remain subject to EU laws and jurisdiction, and the federalisation of Europe would be near complete. A so-called hard Brexit would have us leave the single market and trade with the EU either under a custom trade deal or under WTO terms, depending on which they'd prefer. We'd regain control of our fisheries, trade and immigration policies. We would save around £10 billion a year in fees and likely earn upwards of £40 billion in new trade, and our laws would be our own. So this, dear Britain, is the decision before us. It's not about hard and soft, floppy or wet. It's about the 2016 referendum and an attempt to overturn the result. As an aside, I fully believe that our next Prime Minister, Chairman May, is an out-and-out liar who fully intends to backslide on Brexit. I hope I'm wrong, but I foresee, as with Cameron before her, there will be months of waffle about tough negotiations before she declares victory without any meaningful change to our relationship with the European Union. The establishment have almost 100 years of planning and implementation invested in creating the United States of Europe, and they're not going to give it up easily. The worst bit is, if she does backslide, once she has a large majority, we the people have absolutely no democratic way to stop her. It would be, as they say, a colossal stitch-up. Elections are about the future, not the past, so it's time for a reality check. It matters not a jot at this point who voted to remain last year, be it Scotland or number 4 Privet Drive. We voted as a nation, and as a nation we must act because that is how democracy works. Therefore, we must leave the European Union. Then perhaps we can tackle our ridiculous national debt, our entirely unrepresentative MPs, and the first-past-the-post system that allows such cretins to win office in the first place. But those are topics for a later date. Feel free to share or re-upload this video as you like, and please do let me know what you make of all this stuff, either at YouTube or via Twitter. Just search for Piffle TV. And if you'd like to support me making more videos like this one, consider donating $1 each month via the website patreon.com. Anyway, until next time, good luck everyone.
Thank you, Piffle. Right, let's have a look at a little bit more information, so bear with me. Now, RageAfterStorm is German-born, and this is her perspectives on how the European Union is at the moment. So we'll have a look and see how, well, basically what is in store for us in Britain if there's more cultural enrichment, as she says. So let's have a listen.
This is going to be sort of a difficult video for me to make right now because I feel like part of who I am has been completely stripped away from me. Something that used to make me proud has completely crumbled to dust, and I'm not exactly sure how to come to terms with it. So before I do anything, I'm going to supply a tiny bit of background knowledge. I was born in Germany to a German mother and an English father. When I was 1, my family and I moved to England. I grew up in the southern part of England called Southampton. I lived in England until I was 18. After that, I moved to Switzerland with my mother and father. I have a German passport. I have had one ever since I can remember, actually. I am half German. And Germany is dead to me. And by saying this, I don't actually mean the people of Germany themselves. You know, the innocent citizens who must endure the sheer wrath of cultural enrichment.
Sugar. Oh, honey, honey. You are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you. Honey.
I mean the government who have allowed for this to happen. Like our, or their, very own Chancellor. Angela Merkel ruined my country with her mindlessness, as well as her guilt to accept people into a society where they simply cannot adapt. Merkel welcomed Syrian refugees without consulting any of her colleagues in the German government. But not only that, she also demanded that other European states in the then borderless Schengen zone should accept them as well, asking countries like Spain, Italy, Belgium, even Greece, whose public debts are over 100% over the GDP, to take in refugees and spend money where there isn't any is absolutely absurd and selfish. Even though Merkel did sort of...
So what we have is, if we stay in the European Union, this is what's going to be forced on us, like is happening in the rest of Europe, that it doesn't matter whether we can afford things, there's no rationale, we can't keep our own populations. They want to move people around. I'm trying to remember who it was. Was it in ancient times? It was around about the time of the Greeks. There was one of that they'd come in and move different populations. It's where the 12th tribe of Israel went. They disappeared. They got culturally moved and then mixed in and lost their identity and just disappeared off the map. And following those old practices, this is what the new modern European Union is trying to do. Moving populations. So this is, in a way, forcing populations, as you see, to move from one place to another. A, for the benefits, as a big, here's a carrot, but a big stick. When those people have moved in, it's forcing the indigenous population to either succumb, put up with it, or to move elsewhere. So it's causing huge and diverse population changes in both directions, which is just untenable. It's out of control, and things need to be brought back under control. The idea of working together and having systems in place that work and improve things and make things better is wonderful, but they can't just happen like that. They have to be given time to, who come in have to be given time to integrate and become part of the society they're moving into. It's a no-brainer, but the way it's being forced and the speed of change is, of this cultural enrichment, is just too much, too fast. There needs to be a brake put on it to allow things to stabilise, so cultures aren't at loggerheads, and so there can be adaptation to these situations. Let's carry on with what she's saying.
Reduce the flow of Middle Eastern migrants in the EU, which was through a deal with Erdogan to control the border. He accepted this, but with a huge cost. The EU was to be silenced over Erdogan's arbitrary arrest of thousands of soldiers, police, lawyers and journalists. In addition to that, he also demanded visa-free entry of 80 million Turks into the EU. So not only are Germany dealing with Middle Eastern migrants, they also have to possibly deal with 80 million Turks that would most probably migrate too. And what do places...
Hold on. So, on top of what's already come in, with what they're trying to force onto us, with this potential 80 million Turks who could come in, I'm not racist, I'm not xenophobic or anything, but purely on a numbers basis, if we're looking 70, 75 million people in the European in the EU, balanced by an equal, if not slightly greater number from Turkey, if they all came to Britain, on top of what we already have here, well, our service would be overstretched and the culture would change to their culture, or a substantial portion, overnight. It's just not tenable. It's too fast, too much. There needs to be the border controls to get things in place in a controlled way, and that's all that is necessary. But a soft Brexit wouldn't... They want border controls to be gone as one of the pillars of us staying in, and Jeremy Corbyn wants it all to come down, it's all to be mashed together, and everyone to be able to go wherever they want without a whim. Well, it's just not... It's too fast. There needs to be some sort of controls, and he's going to allow everyone in. Doesn't matter. He's up in his pedestal, in his ivory tower. It doesn't matter to him. He doesn't get to see the trouble he causes. Whereas we at the bottom see it on a day-to-day basis. We don't want these amounts of people, even if it's not in Britain, if it's spread across the rest of Europe and ourselves, we will get a percentage of it. But as I said, I'm not against... I know some great Turkish people, great people from every country, but it's the cultural enrichment at too fast a level. And like I said, the only best option at the moment, sadly, is the Conservative Party. But we don't want to lose the internet alongside. We need to be able to talk, we need to be able to pass ideas, we need to be able to look at what's really happening, what people are saying, and be allowed to make choices. And in a modern age, we should be able to help to have our ideas implemented and have the proper discussion of what we the people want, not to be dictated to by a few bureaucrats in Europe or anywhere. And while we're disenfranchised with the technology we've got to allow us to see what's happening and come up with a proper consensus. We don't want to be steamrolled by a few arrogant people at the top, the political class. You know, we don't want that. We don't want to be controlled and herded and shepherded by people who have their best financial interests in mind, and while we suffer and fund them. Sorry, it's just completely wrong. Just completely wrong. So our political class need to help us, but then they need to be accountable to us. And we need to know what's going on. We need the correct information. We don't want the wrong people telling us. We want all the true information, and we want to be able to verify it, which is why I say follow the links, verify things for yourself, and be inquisitive. If you don't check the links, if you don't check what's happening, then you've only got yourself to blame when something goes against what you want, because you haven't checked it out and you haven't stood up to be counted. Well, I'm standing up to be counted before it's too late. I know I'm doing it because, well, the political side doesn't matter, but having the free speech, my YouTube channel, my ability to talk to you guys, play games, enjoy my life, is going to be curtailed because of certain people in the political class dictating that that's what they want to impose. Well, I feel that's wrong. But I want to have a chat about it, get a consensus, and if the majority is for that, you know, I'm part of society, I'll go with it. But if people feel that it's wrong, well, we stand up together and get things changed so things are right in a nice social way, as we always have done as British. So let's let this carry on and see what she says.
Like the Middle East and Turkey have in common, even though Turkey is technically part of the Middle East geographically speaking. That's right. Islam.
Ooh,
And we all know that Islam, as well as its cultural involvement into Western society, has done nothing but fuck things up, especially for Germany. Obviously they sort of have a primitive home culture to vouch for. I'm not going to stamp this all on religion, but a lot of the time Islam is a huge part of their culture. Likewise, refugees aren't just Middle Eastern. A lot of the refugees that have been arriving into Europe are also North African. And due to the differences within our cultures, these people are likely to breed a lot more than your standard European woman. And it's not racism, it's just a fact. With an aging population of Germans themselves too, we could face a consequence of having a minority of Germans in their own country.
so we've got R and K reproductive strategies. One of the strategies gives us a breeding population which may not have the highest IQ and can't enrich a society properly, and you have more thoughtful people, like the majority of the people who are already here, who think about when to have children and look after children properly, rather than just getting loads and loads of children and then expecting the rest of society to bail them out. It's not fair that the people here who think and save and do what's right are then overwhelmed and swamped by the people who just spread their legs and want benefits. You know, it's just not right. Or coming to certain countries and then piggybacking from one country to another to get higher and higher benefits, moving within the European Union until they get to the place paying the highest amount of benefits, to they can send back to their family and then bring the family over and then all be here doing similar things. As the statistics show, that 70% of people coming in won't find work, and all they will be doing is be a drain on society. Well, if there's which is why it can't be borders without limit. There needs to be a limit on how many people can come in as to what society can afford to cover safely. Because if you're bringing in so many people and then all their progeny who will be coming along very, very soon based on their past experience and the number of children they normally have and are looking forward to having, that the benefits alongside that. Yes, there's a large population which is coming in, lowering the overall workforce cost per hour. Great for big business, great for McDonald's. Well, and then that, oh goodness, what can we do about the situation? We just need to keep the borders up. Maybe not trust, but help, at the moment, Conservative Party to get in, but we need to hold them to account for what's going on as we move forward. We need free speech. We need a proper look at the terrorist question, which is based on Islam, because the terrorists, they're all Islamic. It's, oh, we're doing this during Ramadan, we're blowing people up so we go to heaven, and we're promised all these virgins. Sorry, having read the Quran and looked into this, that's the case. That's why they're doing it. They kill non-believers, and even when they kill priests who are believers, oh, I can get into the technicalities of that, but I won't at this stage. But, oh, so much. Let's let her carry on.
And I'm not exactly sure how Germany are coping with this extreme change. And for those of you at home who assume that Germany is completely fine, I beg to differ. More than 1 million migrants came to Germany last year. That's 5 times more than the year before. Now this is boosted by the country's open door policy for refugees. These include refugees from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and from other war-torn countries. Now I know a lot of those countries are actually war-torn, so me putting this in quotation marks wasn't exactly right. But there is a bit of an availability for these migrants to actually escape to countries that aren't in the EU or that aren't Germany. In fact, there are a lot of migrants who are travelling back to their war-torn country. So how war-torn can a country be if you voluntarily travel back? It seems that Germany's welfare benefits seem to, you know, make them very happy. Leaked reports confirm the staggering number of sex crimes in Germany as well. And I'm not going to forget the Cologne attacks either. 1,200 women were assaulted by 2,000 men on New Year's Eve in German cities in 2016. So you had more men assaulting one woman at a time. A bulk of those crimes were committed in Cologne and Hamburg. 600 attacks were reported in Cologne and 400 attacks were reported in Hamburg. Police say that the wave of attacks were perpetrated by groups of Arab or North African men in the city centre for what they described a new dimension of crime. But the funny thing is, the police in Cologne actually failed to mention the attacks. On their initial morning report on New Year's Day, they said the whole night was relatively peaceful.
So, censorship, mass immigration, the police looking after anyone who wants to dissent. You've got the European Union wanting to close down on free speech and not saying about these troubles. You now have certain people, the Conservative Party, wanting to close down free speech, wanting to close down the internet. Dictatorships. It's all about dictatorships. They are here to represent us. We put them in power. No, all they do is give us the opportunity to vote once every 4 or 5 years, and then they ignore what we want. Well, it's just not right. We need to be able to stand up, be counted, and not just when we put them in like this. We need to get things going the right way. They need to keep doing what we, the people, want them to do, because we put them in. Back in the day, it was the wisest who stood up, represented the clan, and then went to talk with other clan leaders, came together in council, and then many clans talked together to organise what was happening, and that's basically what the parliaments are. But they don't represent us anymore. They think we're the leaders, we've been put in charge, therefore we are above everyone else, and it's our opinion, not who we represent, not the people who sent us here, not the people who are funding us. We don't give a monkeys about what they really think. That may or may not be true, but we need to help the politicians to change face. We need to help politicians to be representative, to be seen, and to actually be representing us on all levels and have our best interests at heart. That's why they're there. That's why they're in Parliament. That's why we vote them in. Not so that when they get to the Parliament that they're in this case in London, that they do the best for us. Let's carry on with what she's saying.
Great. Even on New Year's Eve this year, many German women have actually stated that they didn't even go outside or celebrate because they were scared of being attacked. But not only do these attacks happen on a huge event, these attacks happen on a day-by-day basis on random people. Likewise, Facebook actually censoring news that promote xenophobia. But this idea of xenophobic speech appears to include anything in judgment of the EU immigration policies. Huh. I wonder who's behind this.
No. He's got nice teeth. Sorry. Oh my goodness.
In September 2015, Merkel actually approached Zuckerberg in an overheard conversation in UN meetings. Zuckerberg actually confirmed that we needed to work on xenophobic Facebook posts. Merkel has even previously criticized Facebook for not doing much about it. But even I myself, I'm not living in Germany, but I can see a lot of the time what is actually happening. I live in a city called Basel, which is basically on the border of Germany and France. Many people living in Basel hop over the border to go shopping in Germany. A, because it's cheaper, and B, usually people can't afford to shop in Switzerland because it's fucking expensive. Also, because we don't have Amazon in Switzerland, I actually go and pick up my packages in Germany. It takes around 15 minutes for me to get on the tram and hop over the border to Germany. And usually when we just get to Germany, the police stop the tram and check passports. But the funny thing is, they don't really check white people anymore. They actually check people who don't really look German or Swiss, which I personally understand, taking into account you can't check every single person in a tram. But it's sort of sad that a country has resorted to racial profiling to keep their country safe. When I go to this area, I don't feel like I'm in Germany. When I go there for whatever reason, be it buying something or picking up a package, I do feel unsafe. And I can tell that the only people there who seem to oogle at me or try to get my attention are definitely not German. The place is filled with halal shops and hairdressers that only Middle Eastern people actually seem to go to. Going there, you see a copious amount of women wearing hijabs. Personally, I would love to go on Google Street View to show you guys the situation, but for some reason, we don't have Google Street View. Germany doesn't seem to have Google Street View, which is weird because neighboring countries like Switzerland and France seem to. Why? Well, Germany actually has extremely iffy privacy laws. You would have expected these to be changed by 2017 though, taking into account that people use Google Street Views for a lot of things. And that is what Germany does not want you to see. Germany does not want the rest of the world to realize the scary reality. I'm sorry, Merkel, but when was the last time that you were affected by mass immigration? You live in a cushy and safe place, most probably guarded day and night. There's no way for you to witness what happens to German people every single day, because it will never even happen to you. And it's quite obvious that you will never get sexually attacked because you look like a fucking thumb. You're using your privilege, your wealth and your fame to keep you safe, all whilst you're making the rest of Germany completely unsafe. Because face it, you are what caused the majority of rapes and sexual attacks by migrants in Europe and Germany.
So let's have a look at the situation. What can I find out about Merkel? So bear with me. Okay, this is a political program from 21st November 2012, Channel 4. And this is the political editor, Gary Gibbon. So let's see what he says.
Biggest military airstrip in Europe. A vitally important Soviet airbase packed with bombers targeting Western Europe.
So, this is a Soviet socialist airstrip in Germany. Okay.
And just over there, the other side of those woods, the young Angela Merkel grew up in its shadow. Templin, a quiet town in a security state. But Angela Merkel was born in West Germany. Her father, a pastor, emigrated here with his young family when just about everyone wanted to go in the other direction.
So, her family were in the Free West, but decided, because of his leanings, to take his family to East Germany, to the Soviet side of things, because of his leanings. So that was the background. She was brought up in a socialist family and moved from the safety of the West to the East to be not just indoctrinated by her father, but to be further indoctrinated by the Soviet socialist state. Very interesting.
Angela Merkel's old maths teacher remembers a gifted mathematician, always methodical. The woman world leaders struggled to read, learnt to keep her thoughts to herself in a communist state. She plays her cards close to her chest. Is that the Angela Merkel you remember from school days?
Ja, das kann man so sagen.
Yes, you could say that. In order to make her way in East Germany, she took part in all the compulsory events at school, but never in the front row, rather holding back, always reserved, judging how far she could go in order to get her way.
It was a totally ideologized society there. And if you have a look at Angela Merkel of these days, she's totally pragmatic and totally against every ideology.
Angela Merkel's very much a product of the old East Germany that she grew up in. She has a much more Atlanticist outlook than many German leaders of the past, a much less romanticized view of the European project. But the pressure to keep the Eurozone afloat means that she finds herself pushing harder and deeper for European integration than they ever did.
Right. So what we want to find out is anything about Mr. Juncker. So what can we find out? Bear with me. Okay, here's a little snippet. Oh. Okay, here's a little snippet. Let's see.
I am 150% in favor of having Britain as a constructive member state of the European Union. We need Britain. Personally, I would think that Britain needs the European Union, but that's a matter of conviction. Others may have a different feeling on that thing.
Okay, that was from BangBlank, based on something that's gone previously. Let's look for some more information on Mr. Juncker's. Okay, so let's look at the negotiations. The Labour side has said they can basically give Europe whatever they want. The Conservatives can stand up for us, but they may fuck us over in the background. Excuse my French, and it's not French. So let's have a listen to a little bit of what happened during the Greek situation, and I think this is going to be similar to how they feel about things, where it comes to how we are. I haven't seen this, but this is a look at what he says on the Greek situation.
Hello and welcome to the interview. Today I'm very pleased to host the President of the European Commission, Mr. Jean-Claude Juncker. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Very few people know Europe and the Eurozone as well as Mr. Juncker. For 18 years he was Prime Minister of Luxembourg, and for 8 years he headed the Euro Group. That's the group of Eurozone finance ministers, and he was in that post at a crucial time when the Eurozone was negotiating and supervising bailouts for countries facing bankruptcy, such as Greece. He's now been President of the European Commission here in Brussels for the last 3 months. Mr. Juncker, I'd like to start with the Greek question.
Right, so he was in charge of negotiations, so he's not just a figurehead, he's right in there at the sharp end. So he's going to be not just the figurehead, he's going to be there dealing with whoever we have in leadership, and he's a sharp pencil in the box. And we need someone just to fight our corner. Can you imagine Corbyn going in and negotiating with this guy?
The Eurogroup meeting earlier this week didn't go very well, but there was suddenly a change, a new mood, an atmosphere at the European summit on Thursday. How did that change happen, and what was your role in it?
The explanation is that the president of Eurogroup, Mr. Dijsselbloem, had a meeting with the Greek Prime Minister. I had phone calls with the Greek Prime Minister, and they were putting together some elements of a technical nature. We are far away from a deal. We are far away from what you could call a political compromise. But now we are taking under examine the substance of the divergences which may exist between the Eurogroup's opinions and the plans of the Greek government. This should have been done before the European summit. Now it will be done after the European summit in order to prepare the ground for the next meeting of the Eurogroup on next Monday.
How do you think this big gap between the sides, the two sides, is going to be bridged? I mean, concretely, what could a compromise actually look like next week?
I do really think that Greece needs a program, and we have a program. And so
Hold on. So he was asked about compromise, and he said, we have a program for Greece. Nothing about negotiation, nothing about compromise. We, as the European bloc, have a program that Greece is going to accept no matter what. So bear that in mind. This guy is about dictation, he's about dominating, he's about force and telling people what they're going to do. It's not about negotiation in his eyes, it's about, this is what I want, this is what Europe, or what he as Europe wants. Him and Angela Merkel dictating to the world and the rest of the European members what they want. If he is dictating to Corbyn, Corbyn's going to go, oh yes, here, I'm bending over, oh yes, more please, more please. Yeah, and I don't see that happening with the Conservative Party. I don't think they're going to go, oh yeah, Roger me again. No, it's not going to happen. And this is the guy, this is what he's like. So let's see what he says in his own words.
Favorite answer to your question would be to say that Greece should request a prolongation of the program, given the need they have to revisit a certain number of elements of the program. I do think that the deal could be made around a common sense idea, which means that those measures the Greek government wants to cut have to be replaced by other measures leading to the same fiscal amount than the measures the Greek government would like to cut.
In other words,
the budgetary balance is of paramount importance.
So in other words, really Greece, as far as you're concerned, can make changes internally as long as the result doesn't cost more money for the other members of the Eurozone.
That's exactly what I was saying. I would like to invite Greece to step away from taking unilateral measures. These measures have to be taken in agreement with the Eurogroup, and the new measures have to be introduced in agreement with the Eurogroup. But as far as the final result is concerned, the amounts have to be exactly the same.
Obviously, the next few days and weeks will be crucial because there's a deadline coming up for the end of February. Do you have any regrets about anything that you did when you were head of the Eurogroup? Is there anything that the Eurogroup today can learn from in negotiating some kind of settlement with Greece in the next few weeks?
I do think that the political authorities, that means the Commission and the Council under form of the Eurogroup, have to take a more pronounced personal and political interest in the exact components of the adjustment programs we are launching. This is not a matter for high civil servants. This is a matter for politicians. And the Troika, when negotiating with member states, the so-called program states, they are sending high civil servants to these capitals. This has to be done, but the negotiations have to take place between commissioners, ministers, and the political authorities of member states. It's not fair to have a prime minister sitting there like you are sitting there, and to have a high civil servant being his dialogue partner. That's not the way things should be done. And would we have had we done this, we would have avoided, I do think, a certain number of mistakes.
So you think better communication at a higher level, yes. Perhaps ministers going to Greece more often?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do think.
I want to come on to...
You could see by his eyes then that it wasn't what he was thinking, but it was what he was led to move on to, and he was going to say about something else, which I would suspect is that that they wanted to get in there, control things in the background and put more pressure on, not have technical guys, as he said, don't have the civil servants in there who can advise the politicians of what's really going on, and just talk to the politicians and push for it, and to have certain people like a certain ex-Labour Prime Minister who then suddenly everything flips the right way and he's in bed with the European Union. Well, yeah, I just feel that that's what Corbyn would just do. He'll roll over for whatever's expedient, keep the socialist dream alive. Eastern Europe, the ways of the Stalinist, communist bloc that's moved in through these people using the socialist state that the European Union now is. I could show more details of what's happening in Sweden, but you know the examples. Let's carry on and hear more of what he says in the last of this session of the hour that I can do.
The question of your growth and investment plan for Europe, which is worth 315 billion euros, obviously crucial at a time of economic hardship in Europe. I know that you were discussing this with colleagues at the European Summit. What is the progress on that? As I understand, some key European nations have not yet contributed to this plan.
I would like, apart Germany, who did it, other governments contributing on a bilateral level to this plan, but even without national contribution, this plan is flying because it's entirely financed with new financial instruments and with some modest budgetary amounts and volumes from the European budget. What is essential to my view is that all the governments are agreeing on the basis that we need a virtuous triangle, meaning that, of course, budgetary consolidation is of the essence, that structural reforms are of paramount importance, and that we have to complete these two dimensions. Though these dimensions we were insisting on in recent years by a third dimension, which is growth and job-oriented investment. Everyone is agreeing on that basis because there are these three elements which are important to member states, and I have asked the European Investment Bank to identify the...
Right, so what they actually did in effect was create paper money which wasn't real, to buy up tangible assets in Greece which were real, and then pass them to their colleagues in the banking industry, in the Rothschilds, the other banks, or whatever the banks put the money up, passing tangible assets to their mates to maintain their power base at the top. Wonder where Soros is in all this. But back to the question: where do we fit? How is it? How are things for us over the next week, months, negotiation? Who is going to deal with this guy, with the European Union best? And I can't see any better party than the Conservatives, and that's who I'm going to have to go for. So I look at the information. Who do you think is going to do better for Britain coming through these negotiations to get us out of this situation where it's a federalist state that wants to dictate, take your democratic rights to have someone standing up for you, rather than being a slave, to be a slave in a plush cell? Do you want to be a slave? If you want to be a slave, then go with Corbyn. Let that little puppy dog lead you into a glitzy, happy little puppy dog kennel down the bottom of the garden where your mask from Europe can come and give you a kicking whenever they want to. Or do you want a Rottweiler and the British Bulldog of the Conservative Party there with your back, might give you a little bite now and again, but still going to stand up for you and is going to be there, and Europe is going to know that it's going to get bitten back if it pushes too hard? Or else we're going to walk away. We need a deal that's going to suit us. We want everything to be on the table, and we want the chance to walk away from the table if it doesn't suit us. And I don't see any other party but the Conservatives doing it with this guy. He wants what he wants, and he's used to getting what he wants. Well, we can't let him have his way. We stood up for France against Germany. We don't want to be... Well, we're standing up against him. It's another dictator, another dictatorship trying to tell us what we can do. I'm sorry, well, he can... No. Just no. Mr. Juncker, no. You know? So, the only option I see is the Conservative Party. But we need to hold them to account for the future of Britain. We want free speech. We want to be able to talk. We want to know what's happening. And we want to help push our politicians to make the right decisions and vote in the right ways to stand up for us. Whereas these bozos, we think that our politicians are bad. These bozos in Europe are worse. So, you know, do we have someone who's bad or someone who's really bad? Well, these guys are really bad. But we need to help our politicians to realise that we can hold them to account. So, it's up to you guys. Do what you feel is right. Look at the information. Follow the links. Check out what's happening. But don't just sit back, because this is imperative. You may vote differently, but this is a critical, key vote that's for the rest. This is for the future of our kids. This is for the future of Britain. This isn't just about one political party. Yeah, it's for 4 or 5 years, whatever length of time it's going to be. But we need to get it right, because if we muck this up, if the Labour Party get in, we are screwed. We are completely screwed. I wouldn't normally say words like that, but I have to. It's so, so important. I'm the Gaming Bear, and I'll see you soon. Cheers, guys. Bye.